Hello, Danvers. Welcome back. I'm Mark Zubarek, and I'm reporting for the topics of the town news. And I'm continuing to report on part two of the Town Charter Review meeting that was held on July 11th, 2024. And this second part of the presentation is more as a result of participation from the members in free discussion and also participation from the audience that was present at this meeting. The audience itself needs to be more engaged because there are issues that need to be identified, as you'll see in the presentation. But what I wanted to get across to you is that there needs to be a mission of what is this committee going to be reviewing. High-level questions to be addressed in the charter review are really based on the philosophy of the mission philosophy statement. The Charter Review Committee will scrutinize and evaluate the existing town charter to ensure an appropriate, effective, and accountable organizational structure of Danvers government for its residents and constituents, and if necessary, recommend any changes to the Board of Selectmen by April 2025. That is a philosophy statement that I've developed by researching a lot of different towns that have made town charter reviews a standard procedure on a regular basis every 5 or 10 years. Because these charters are not stagnant. They change. The people in town change. The politics in town changes. So we need to adjust to the current situation. High-level questions to be addressed in the charter review need to be identified. Does Danvers government achieve the highest level of integrity and ethical behavior? We've had significant issues recently, and we need to address those. Does the charter encourage maximum participation by the residents and constituents in Danvers government? Is the structure of the Danvers government elected and appointed appropriate to deliver the services that we have learned to expect? Does the Danvers government provide sufficient responsibility and authority to encourage efficiency and provide strong financial controls? I think we have the strong financial controls, but there are situations where there's a slip in the authorities. Does the Town Charter, Town Manager Act not provide adequate representation for residents and influence the supplement of town committees should some appointed committees be elected? There are issues that have been pushed into the future, into this charter review, that have been proposed at town meeting, and I will be identifying those. Philosophy: to review the charter, the committee must be open, transparent, and respectful. And I think they are. They're trying to find their way, but they do have their own questions. Open: we welcome input from all constituencies, residents, businesses, employees, including outreach where practical. We need to get more people involved in the input to this committee. Transparent. We will conduct open, convenient, and televised meetings with opportunity for anyone to address the committee. And this is so important. And Sally Calhoun has finally realized that this has to be televised and distributed to the community because they have input that the committee needs. Respectful, we will consider all input as relevant and serious regardless of the method of delivery. Town Charter, Town Manager Act review shall keep records of all sessions scheduled. Open meeting process shall be followed. Therefore, these televised versions of the DCAT presentations and the Selectmen's Room are very important for record keeping as well. Survey form. The Charter Review Committee welcomes anyone interested in providing input to the process of reviewing our town charter. To attend the Charter Review Committee meeting for public input or during a special public input session as indicated in our established calendar. They need to establish a schedule so they can go through all the sections. These sections of these documents are very extensive and they need to be addressed one by one. The Charter Review Committee is willing to entertain a Skype session with those that are homebound, or you can fill out the survey form and have any comments go directly to the Charter Review Committee. Now, I'm reading off a presentation that I've gathered from various different towns that have done a town charter review. And they have done an extensive job. And one of them is Chelmsford. Another one is Williamstown Charter Review Committee that I have in front of me. And there are very, very interesting questions that they have raised in regard to their charter. So I will continue to be relating to the Town Charter Committee with input from our audience, myself, and from the town hall. They need to get involved as well. The Danvers selectmen have an opportunity to be leaders in this situation, and they need to be involved. So one of the things that I would suggest is that we gather the committed elected officials that have existed in the past. Basically, we have selectmen, former selectmen, current selectmen, and school committee people that have been working this type of government in our town, and they have their own issues that they want to address. So maybe what we should have is a select committee of former elected officials to discuss some of their issues that they've experienced in the past. And one of them is appointment of committees. Some of the committees should definitely be elected. Municipal Light Board needs to have commissioners that are elected instead of appointed. So there are issues, and I'll identify those. So second part is more of the nuts and bolts of what this committee wants to get into, and hopefully you can gather information from that, and I'll be back presenting future shows as the time allows for me to participate. So welcome to part 2, and take a look and see what really transpires at these meetings. You may want to participate. Thank you very much, and enjoy the show.
To meet again. I know that different boards and committees I've been on over the years, that everybody wants to take the month of August off. And though I can appreciate that, I do feel, time is marching on us.
Yeah.
I'd love to try to get a meeting in August if we could.
Well, I am available August. August 22nd through 26th. Yeah, I'm not available yet.
How about the 15th? Is Thursday a day that works with people? Is there, one of the reasons I think Thursdays might work is because the town hall is open until, I think, 7. So there'll be people around.
Yeah, and once the fall begins, I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are like, our library meetings are on, Wednesday. So I think
Thursday is the day that works.
there's not really any commission or committee meetings
Yeah.
on Thursday, so I think it's a good time to keep it on Thursday.
Did you say you were available the 22nd?
Yeah, through the 26th.
So how about
I'm
the,
available the 15th, but feel free to move on to maybe the 15th.
It's my birthday, so I'm
Okay, you're on.
I mean, I'm gonna be traveling the 15th. I should be back in Danvers by 6, but you never know the weather and stuff. So,
Could we do the 8th?
Yeah.
Can we back it up? The 8th, does that work?
I can do the 8th, yeah.
I think we're gonna run into that in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a vacation.
No, if the 15th works for other people.
And likewise for the 8th.
I'll do my best to get here.
So for the 8th, how many people can't come? You two, and for the 15th? Well, how about you, Mike, would you be participating again, virtually? Oops.
15th right now look workable for me. I should be able to make either one of those in person.
Are the 1st and 29th out because they're like too close or too far away?
It might be too close in terms of asking MMA to come, of course. I suppose that if I propose 2 dates to them, maybe the chance of them being able to come is greater. That's what they're just saying.
Close to Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, yeah.
Right now, we just have Thursdays, but other days of Thursdays if we want to look at that.
We have to do earlier in the day or seek, I think, what are our limitations in terms of location? Do we need to?
So you can still, have a meeting here, it's just that there's no staff.
Support.
Oh, like if we wanted to have departments come,
Could have a
they would
meeting
not be
at the
available.
senior center, if the senior center was available.
Yeah, the town gives us the place that's available, we tell them the date. And in terms of people we want to come and talk to us, I don't know that they wouldn't come if the meeting was at night, I don't know that part.
I think
Thursday, they're here already.
They're here until 7 o'clock, but they're usually gone at 7.
So I try to have set up so people can come that first hour and present, and then, but that's not sacrosanct, we would change that up.
And the next meeting probably wouldn't be engaging departments, correct? It would be hopefully the MMA, so maybe another day.
I'm open to suggestion. I feel it's easier to say, okay, we'll be a certain day, and then we can look at our calendar on that day or throw, as opposed to looking every single day of the month. But that's just me, I get overwhelmed easily.
Do you have any time that you won't be around in August?
Earlier in the month than this, that we're talking about. So I could do the 15th or the 29th. Or the 8th. The 8th would be harder. Yeah, I could do 8, 15, or 29.
So, 15 kind of seems like.
Seems like that.
That's.
I guess if MMA is not available, we can always adjust.
Right.
Back in time, but
Whatever.
You'll have the public comment.
I'll send it here to you.
Okay, so the 15th?
Same time, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found, looking at different agendas of different committees, that, for instance, the planning board has their agenda, and then they list options for viewing the meeting. And for Comcast, it's channel 22, did I lose Mark? And Verizon is channel 41, and then online, there's the YouTube site. And there's a place to click on the agenda to join the meeting. I thought, well, now that's interesting, because it's stuff that I'm just not at all familiar with the technology of it.
So how are they doing that? Is
I don't
it-
know.
they're probably-
DCAT is doing it,
DCAT's
DCAT's
doing it.
committed to them, yeah.
So, yeah, DCAT's committed to certain boards that they will staff, like school committees,
Right.
select board.
Right.
And the school committee too, has on their agenda right at the start, watch live at a certain YouTube place, or to join on Zoom at another spot. So I just never been on committees that did that, so, and the zoning board of appeals also has a place to click on their agenda to join the meeting.
Which
So-
allows for public comment and public that can't come in to still be able to participate. So like a lot of like the Zoom, that would have to be set up through the town, and then the DCAT channel would have to be set up through DCAT, so you're coordinating with a couple different departments on that. And wasn't Jen looking into seeing if there was gonna be a staff liaison for this committee to take the notes?
Yes, and the person that was assigned was sick, couldn't come tonight, so I'll direct them.
Okay,
And Jen will then put it in the proper format.
great.
But in future, we will have some.
Yeah. So we'll say the 15th for our next meeting, and if I find that that date's not gonna work at all with MMA, I think I can email everybody. I think that just trying to coordinate a date falls outside of any open meeting requirements. I can send out an email to everybody saying, yep, that date is gonna work with MCAT or not, and we can decide whether to forego the meeting or to go ahead and have it despite that. Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they thought we should talk about tonight and we haven't gotten to it?
I assume we're not yet broaching the subject of our opinions on anything that you've read.
Sure, well, that's what we're here for.
All right, so I was curious, in the Town Meeting Act, that it says, hold on, try to find it. It's, so town meeting members, as aforesaid, shall be the judges of the election and qualifications of their members. We don't do that.
Well, if you think about it, has your precinct ever been in a situation where they didn't have enough people?
Yeah.
So that precinct meets and decides who should fill a vacancy, right? So that kind of fits into that language.
It does, but if someone is voted in to be a town meeting member, the other town meeting members don't decide if they're qualified. You know what I mean, like, isn't that,
Well, when you meet, if your precinct has to meet prior to town meeting, this was my experience, in the room, folks that wanted to fill that position would come in, they would then speak in front of the members that are in that room, that are current town meeting members, and explain why and what their qualifications for them to be that. And then at that point there, then there's a vote held. So that's just been,
Yeah, that's what happened in
So-
caucus and
yeah,
precinct two before.
so they speak to their skill set or their experience and all, so that's kind of how we would judge whether or not.
But for more general election, if the people that did get elected, I guess we assume that because the person that was running had to get nomination papers that had to then be approved, right, you turn it in and they have to approve your list, that qualification process has already occurred. If you got to the point where you were on the town meeting ballot and you were elected.
the town meeting doesn't do that?
Apparently, it doesn't sound like it, does it?
No.
It sounds like the residents do that.
Right.
Like your fellow residents qualify you.
Right,
and town
right,
meeting
yeah,
doesn't.
town meeting shall be the judges of the election and qualifications of their members.
Because it also means that like town meeting certifies the election.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like we're supposed to, like, town meeting members get elected, and then town meeting goes, yeah, those are, we're good with those.
So maybe we should modify that
Yeah.
language. Maybe we should either eliminate it or,
Or find out what it,
What meaning?
right.
Yeah, it also mentions in the paragraph above it at the start of section 3, that it says the town meeting members shall be limited to the voters elected under section 2. So section 2 has the language of how you're elected. So that seems either redundant or conflicting between two sections.
I think, what that means is that, and I haven't, it's been a couple weeks since I read it, that any representative of town meeting is limited to the people who've been elected as town meeting members. That in order to go to town meeting and be a voting member of town meeting, you have to have been elected.
All right. Yeah.
That's what I think that means, but
That makes sense, yeah.
There's one thing that I read several times, I'm still trying to see if I'm missing something, but he talks about it.
where are you?
In section 2,
Okay.
town meeting membership is close to 96, isn't it? But we're way past 96.
Right.
Yeah. Is there something I'm missing in this language that allows for adjustments over time? Because it sounds like we've grown to where we are today.
Yeah, I know the town manager was saying that number is not written in stone.
It's based on the census.
It's based on the census, but I think
That's
it's.
not what this seems to read.
Right, it's this whole.
Yeah, so they grow through people.
Right, so again, I think that's all like what we're supposed to be making recommendation,
Right.
updating,
Yeah.
right? So, so like when we start going, like we can all highlight our own stuff, and then maybe that's a whole specific meeting of its own is, okay, what does everybody see, so that's when we start making our recommendations.
It would be to address
Right.
exactly these sections.
Right. Well, the document as a whole, yeah.
But assuming that's the 8 precincts, that's 12.
Because we're not changing the structure of this like we discussed, but we might have to update language and update certain things like that, but we're not changing the whole structure of how town meeting works.
Unless
But,
we
yeah.
eliminate. It
Well,
goes.
right, but that's, would be based on the town manager act first, and then, yeah.
Right.
Not necessarily.
Well, yeah, no,
We
that's
could
right.
decide, we should not be a town,
Right.
a strong town manager
Right,
form of government, and we should not be a town meeting, a representative town meeting form of government.
Right.
We want to have a city council
yeah,
and council members elected for 3-year terms, and we want to have 5 precincts. I mean, we could decide that's going to be a better way to go,
right.
and that would toss out both of these laws.
Mm-hmm.
Or to go back to open town meeting,
Right.
and see how that works. Well, I was thinking maybe, since it's a shorter act, a little easier to digest, maybe what we should do is say that our next meeting, we'll hopefully have MMA there, but if not, that we'll
Follow that
we'll
document.
tackle
Yeah.
this one
Yeah.
in detail.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Document seems like it could do some editing and condensing.
I'd say. But again, I also was like, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how much of this is necessary
Right.
to explain things the way legally they should be, but yes, I did agree, I was like, I feel like this would be 3 sentences. And
Someone who writes for a living, I'm just like, oh, there's a lot of straight language in here, let's clean this up.
So for our next meeting, if everybody comes prepared to comment on the town meeting act, we'll start there. And
Would I be able to maybe email you? a couple?
absolutely,
Okay.
that would be really helpful.
that one other one, section 14. We don't know this. But this actually submitted to the register goes to the town managers at an annual or special town meeting called for the purpose.
Well, this act was presented at town meeting and approved.
I think it's related to this specific act.
this act.
Like,
First time.
When the
Oh,
first
it's
one,
weird.
yeah, that is approved by the town.
Like you were thinking it would have a date in it, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
By-
I read that comment kind of too, like, oh, it's talking about this specific
Yeah.
act.
So it would have been helpful to have the date,
Yes.
yeah.
Right, because it says at an annual, and so it sounds like it's like every year we're
Yes.
supposed to do them.
But that could be something you change. Every year, after the voting, there could be chaos.
That section could be taken out. It seems like-
Possibly.
Yes.
Or, you know, another thing we could decide to do is insert language that says, this act shall be reviewed every
Yes.
so many years.
Right.
It could be, that's something we could consider for both acts, so that it's not such a long stretch in between.
One thing I think, I read this a couple weeks ago, I have to go back through it again, but is there any sort of provision here for removing town meeting members?
Oh, removing?
Yeah.
Well,
They were, yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that could be something we can consider because of the citizens petition that was presented.
Right, that's why I brought that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not currently in there, and I
Right.
think that's one of the reasons why we're also looking into.
Because that was for any elected position, correct?
No, it was for
Or is it
townwide election.
Townwide elected position, okay.
So that would not include town meeting members.
Right, okay. So those are reasons. That's why I asked, 'cause I couldn't remember what the exact name of that was.
John, can you pass the chocolate this way too? Sorry. Maybe baking, you know, I'll pick me up over here.
But we could also add, I suppose, some town meeting members into that.
Thank you.
Proposal that.
For any elected official. But you know what would be interesting though, and I don't have that act in front of me, so correct me if I'm remembering it wrong, but it was set out that a certain number of people would have to sign a petition.
Yes. Yep.
And so, you know, and it's a pretty big number. Within one precinct, it would be hard to get a huge number of people, maybe. I don't know. So should it be scaled down to be 1/8 of the number of townwide elected official? I mean, how, do you-
Yeah, because I think it was based on the percentage
Right.
of the
The
whole, of the
previous-
whole voter.
Well,
Turnout.
it was like a
Base.
two-step thing.
Right.
The first step was a set number.
Right.
The second one was a percentage
A
of the
percentage,
voters.
yeah.
And I'm only looking at it was like, I'm not saying we should go either way, but I'm saying that if we were to decide, okay, there's a recall process for townwide, it generally makes sense there should be a recall process for town meeting, because there should be accountability on both.
well, maybe not, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Maybe not though, because if you're, well, we each are a town meeting member, so in your precinct, you're one of 18, it's 18, right?
Yes.
So if one person is just not doing the job, not showing up to meetings, or saying ridiculous things, or taking positions that, you know, whatever, or they're acting inappropriately at town meeting. Well, that one person out of the 18 of you has much less of a impact
And a select board, yeah.
than one member of a 5 board for the select board.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing.
In terms of like process with the recall provision that was presented before, it could lead to a special election, and you'd have a special election in only one precinct.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how that functionally could happen. It would at least be odd.
One table,
Not
yeah.
expensive. Yeah, it seems expensive for
Yeah.
one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who votes once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, maybe we're done.
Now we talk about
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Not to say that it's decided once and for all, we could come back next time with different ideas, but it just seems to me like it is a potentially very cumbersome
Yeah.
solution to a very hypothetical, not very likely question. I don't know.
With minimal impact.
Compared especially with the townwide election.
Yes.
I just had,
My
okay.
perspective on the question or the subject is like, I see a problem in the town government with a lack of involvement and a lack of, to me, that's a bigger problem than like looking to knock people out and find ways.
We need more people
out. We need-
involved, yeah.
You know, and I don't know, it seems like in search of a problem, where the real problem is, like I said, lack of involvement by the town people. Right? It's just, where I'm coming from on that issue.
It would be great to think of ways to have more people be more involved.
Yeah.
It would be.
And just not saying it was this or not that, but this petition came out of the COVID, started at COVID. It didn't just start this past year. It
Yeah.
started when decisions were being made that at the time people didn't agree with. And so that's when that petition was started by a different community member, but it has continued to keep coming back. So I think to talk about it and, give it some attention to see if it truly is something that should be in the charter is, we should do that. But I do think there is some history to this particular petition as well, so just putting that out there.
As someone who moved here mid-COVID, that's helpful for me as like.
Yeah, and that is what has happened, but again, I think we have to really look at that particular petition in depth to make sure that certain things are appropriate for that type of recall. And not just because I don't like the decision you made, or, which is not what they're saying, it is saying it's for egregious
Egregious
acts and all, but like who determines those egregious acts, and then, is that legal to recall someone for whatever said egregious acts? I know examples were given, but again, it is something that I think we have to look long and hard at, so, that's all.
Although it wouldn't be unique, I suppose. It's based it on a lot of other towns that have very similar.
And that's what, I would like to know what those communities are beyond, say, Saugus or whatever, whoever has, I'd like to see the list of
Right.
what communities those are and what it states and if they've ever used it,
Yeah.
so.
And that would
we need
be,
more.
the meeting where we discuss that is one definitely it'll be listed on the agenda as one of the items to be discussed. Again, to encourage people who have something to say can come to that, so.
We're gonna need lots of chocolate for that night.
Yeah, we're gonna need some like, where are they tonight? I was hoping that we were gonna have some. Lunch today.
Again, like sort of as a, this is not, I guess it's not typical of the town meeting, I just one last question, because how long have there been 8 precincts in Danvers? When was the last time a precinct was added?
It's since 1930.
Okay, so that 8 dates back to 1930, okay, so that's what they're about. Okay, that is interesting, I guess. That's what I was curious.
Before I had said, talk about should we send a letter to the different boards and commissions that are hired, or that are appointed by the town manager. I thought we might also want to include those that are not appointed or hired by the town manager, such as the select board, the school committee, the town accountant, the ZBA, and the trustees of library. So that was kind of one more thing I just had got my card on my page. But as I said, I will draft a sample letter, maybe a couple, that we can look at next time before we start reaching out that way. I do feel like we still need to know a little more.
Well, they're still talked about in
Yeah.
the act, so.
And maybe they would like to be under,
Pardon me?
maybe they would like, maybe the boards that currently aren't under the town manager's appointment, maybe they would like to get in the bill out. But
Well, anything else? Do any of you members of the public have anything you'd like to add to our insightful comments this evening?
I would just like to add to the boards and commissions that you sent a letter to. At the back page of the talent form.
Oh, by the way, Jim, tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Jim Rosen. I am a town meeting member, precinct 3.
Sorry, go ahead.
And so on the back of the talent form, it lists all the commissions that are being in boards that the selectmen and the town manager and the moderator select. And like one of the things, like Steve Barker said, was that, gee, where did that bike path committee come from? So maybe we need to find out which ones of all these committees and boards, which ones are by statute and which ones we created and who created it, and what is their charter. Everyone should have a charter. And of course, and their budget should match their charter, but we won't get into that. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Sir, do you have something?
The only comment I would make from listening is town meeting and then for a long time. I find it very disappointing that someone would take out papers and run for a town meeting spot. And what, two of us here right now, who are audience members not appointed to the board. I find it disappointing if there's a way of getting people who, I know that the argument is I can watch it, but you can watch it, you can't be involved in it, this gentleman is. But as a town meeting member, it's like watching a commercial on TV, that's it. I'm just disappointed that more people aren't showing up at these meetings.
I wonder if we could ask the town clerk to send out like an email to the town meeting members so let them know like about our upcoming, I don't know if that's acceptable or appropriate, but to send out a letter saying, hey, FYI, the town manager review act committee is meeting next month, here's the agenda. I mean, to get it out there, I mean, I don't know.
The agenda, I don't know that this answers your question. It is posted here in Town Hall on the bulletin board, but it also is on the town's website. So it's in those two places, but you have to know to look, right?
This
You
also,
have to care.
this also comes back to the question of, does town meeting still work? This
Right.
comes back to just the
Okay,
whole
yeah.
thing of like,
How engaged are
is
town
town
meeting?
meeting?
Yeah.
Right. Does it still make sense?
Do they care from one meeting to the next, right? So during the year, are you just saying, oh, yeah, I'm a town meeting member and not engaging at all?
But that's also the point when it comes time during budget review, who's in the audience, Bill, Mark, there's limited numbers and it's the same people, so.
I find it very disappointing to go to the annual town meeting and watch people opening their envelope
While
to
they're there.
read what they're going to be voting on.
Yep.
Again, another disappointment on my
Correct.
part, but I've also been told I don't have a life, and that's why
Not true.
Sometimes
I'm all looking for sympathy.
it takes a lot of commitment for somebody to give up their family time, their evening time to attend.
And I understand.
Yeah.
It's just that,
It's hard to break through to say to somebody, look, this is important, you gotta come.
Well, now that we're talking about this, I mean, to Bill's point, in the old days, I can remember the town the precinct captains used to, at least when I was a precinct lead, in one, because they keep changing the lines every now and then, and we used to have meetings, and talk about issues, and just the town meeting members would go to their house, and we'll talk, this one and everything else. So you may, like Mary Beth said, if you want to send a letter to all the town meeting members, you just say, why don't you precinct captains, have a little meeting with your precinct and go over some of this stuff, and then send us a summary of what the heck you think you want us to do, because, we need input. That's all I'm saying.
Use the word please.
What?
Use the word please when you ask.
Okay, I'm sorry, but.
No,
I don't know, maybe I could ask Jen if it could be something that's put on the Danvers Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know every week she'll put something out there that says, here's, upcoming meetings, check the town website. I mean, people have to want, like you said, Sally, to look for the information, they have to want to be here, and they have to want to have an interest in it. So as much as we can try to invite them and ask them to come, we might get one or two more new people. And I'm not saying it's not, we shouldn't be doing it, I'm just saying, don't be disappointed when there isn't more. Sorry.
So you and I wrote from that, one of the things I'm thinking that might be helpful too along those lines, is we decided to work on the next meeting. I think what would be helpful is kind of like almost like a plain language summary of what we're doing. Because like, if you're not someone who's very engaged, you're gonna read what's in the Warrant Act and be like, I don't know what that means. Like, and even like, if you start talking about bylaws and governance, I don't know, like, I feel like we need just, like, maybe it's an easy paragraph or something that just sort of explains, like, from a public-facing perspective, here's what we're doing, here's what we're trying to do, here's how you can help us. Like, I'm happy to take a pass at writing that, I don't know if people would find that that's useful. Just from like, again, like a marketing perspective, so if Joe wants to put something on the Facebook page, it's a little more engaging than the Citizens Committee to review the Town Manager Act, and like.
Yeah, they don't know what it means.
They don't know what it means, and, you know, hopefully people would read it and learn about it, but maybe just put in more accessible terms.
That'd be great.
I can take a pass at that.
You take a pass at that, and in the meantime, at least for our next meeting, I'll just ask Jen if they
Yeah.
put it out there,
Yep.
and then we'll gussy it up for the next time.
I'll bring something we can like review of that meeting.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My last comment was that in the past, I brought up, each household receives, I believe they do, a water and sewer and an electric bill. In the past, on occasion, there's been a newsletter in the electric bill. It could be sent with an update for the people, these are the meetings or whatever. This was discussed, we need your involvement, send us whatever, an email. Somehow, that way each household is then aware whether they choose to get involved or not. That's their choice. But we would like you to get involved, and this is one way for every household to know.
So that's a good point, but those inserts that come in those water bills outside, like you get something from the senior center or DPW, those are already scheduled ahead of time by the different departments. So it's scheduled a year out, say. But I don't know if they could add an additional insert to that. I mean, it would add to, so when you get your monthly one, what was in this month, I can't remember. Oh, recreation. And it talked about the summer concerts and the recreation programming.
That's scheduled a year in advance.
That's
yeah.
scheduled a year in advance. So other than, like, they're not gonna bump someone that's scheduled for August or September out. I don't know if we could add an additional insert. I'm thinking probably not, because it's,
We can afford it.
well,
And how many people don't get paper?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I
Yeah,
haven't
how
had
does
it
it
in
work?
years.
Do you get the
I
inserts
get
in
paper.
the digital format?
No.
Okay, so we would only receive people who receive the paper ones.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Bill, I'm just saying it might be harder to get that in there.
I do get a paper bill. And I like inserts, but I feel like there are months when there are no inserts, so I feel like there's probably room for us to put something in there if that's the direction we want to go, but I'm not sure how many people we're reaching.
It only goes into the water bill.
I think it'll just be an additional, it'll be an additional, not a new one.
Actually, is
yeah.
it an electric bill?
No, I think it's the, I thought
think
it was
it's-
the water
I
though.
think it's
That's
just
only
the
for
water
27.
bill. I don't know, maybe it is the electric bill, I just, they merge
Yeah.
together, so.
Of course, one thing we need to do in order to start any of this kind of spreading of information is set our meetings more further out, thank you. And so far, we've just gone a month at a time. And I'm thinking, well, why is that? And it's, I guess, because I feel that these couple of months, July and August meetings are kind of beginning to learn our task. And then I'd like to think we're going to start meeting maybe twice a month. I don't want to scare anybody off by saying that, but twice a month. And we can say, okay, we're going to meet this day and this day of every month. And schedule out a couple months in advance. And not everybody's going to be able to make every meeting.
Right.
But we'll try to capture as many as we can. And if we have them scheduled in advance like that, then I think we can more effectively say to the citizens of the town, look, come to one of our meetings. These are our upcoming dates, and that might be a way to counter some of it.
And maybe we're getting to the point in time that town meeting no longer works, with being 2024 coming into 2025. I mean, maybe it served its purpose and people don't care enough. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see.
No, I think they care, I just think the commitment to doing the homework and the research and participating in the process is part of the issue. To your point as well, I'm a town meeting member. I go to one meeting a year.
I go to one
And-
meeting
but
and I
that's-
don't even read the weren't
or
supportive
know
for
what's
the
being
most part,
talked, or, and then they ask the question at the town meeting that it was like, well, if you had
Where would
watched
you during
the
those,
video
yeah.
or gone to the review, you would know that answer. And, but again, it's all in what people want to put into that volunteer, it's a volunteer position, so.
Right.
But I've got to say, despite all this apathy of people not getting involved, you get those 148 people in a room once, often twice a year, right? It's remarkable. I mean, I have friends across the country who think, what the heck is town meeting? And it's a unique process here of people stepping in to say, well, I do care. And by design, it's not everybody in the town, but it's the people that have been elected. I mean, it gives an entry point for anybody who wants to take it, to start getting involved. And most of the people, even at town meeting, don't get any further involved, but they're more involved than they were as non-town meeting members. And they might find something that tickles their interest, and they'll say, I think I want to go see what that's all about, or I think I'll try that rail trail thing, or, and they'll talk to their neighbors. I mean, it feels like it's invisible right now, and that not very many people are engaged, and that's a drag, I mean, because we're working so hard. But it's part of human nature, and I think really one of the ways to counter it is to make this process as good and as exciting as we can, and to spread the word as best we can. Something's going to land somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sally, and I think part of it is just the bigger idea of if you have a town election and, like 8% of the voters come to vote, like, that's always in the background of it's not a problem we're gonna solve, but that is kind of what we're up against.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you're just finding opportunities for people to get involved. I wanted to get involved sort of every town meeting. Like, that was like my first entry point. And it's like, I think if someone wants to get involved, maybe we should simply coming to one of the meetings. But I think that's also part of what I was talking about is making this, I don't know if I'm going to make this exciting for people, but I think if we can get them to understand the value of coming to these meetings and having a role in how your town is organized, and I think there's an act of service that I think that could be a way just to get people involved. And I think it's like you said, this committee's not solving voter turnout, but I think if we can get people to, this is the first town event they ever come to, let's start something, We have candy.
Patriotic scene.
I might have to go buy some more of those, because they're seasonal. I'll let you guess which season.
They might get on sale now.
Well, how about if we take one vote to adjourn, but were you about to say something? I don't want to call anybody out. Thank you guys for coming.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, wait, I've got to write that down.
And it's exactly 8 p.m.
That's impressive.
Good.
According to the
Who-
shop.
who-
I did, yeah, Mayor Bennett.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Any opposed? No.
Good night.